Today, on the American Land Seller, we dig deep into the evolving world of land management, conservation, and an innovative platform transforming how we access and enjoy the great outdoors. I'm thrilled to welcome Nic De Castro, a visionary entrepreneur from Bozeman, Montana, and the founder of LandTrust, a recreation access network. Nic's groundbreaking work with LandTrust is reshaping the relationship between landowners, outdoor enthusiasts, and land itself, creating a sustainable future for rural America. LandTrust is more than just a marketplace, it's a partnership that brings together landowners with their unique landscapes and experiences, and recreators with their passion and respect for the outdoors. This pioneering platform facilitates these connections with ease, offering landowners not just the opportunity to share their land, but also the peace of mind that comes with insurance, indemnity, and competitive revenue share unmatched by any other online network. For outdoor enthusiasts, LandTrust has created access to private lands, challenging the notion that such experiences are reserved for just the wealthy. It's a safe, straightforward, fostering a diverse community of sportsmen and women and recreationists who can now access lands that were once beyond their reach. Community and trust are at the heart of LandTrust's mission. When neighbors partner through LandTrust, not only does the local community thrive financially from an influx of visitors and the billions spent on land access annually, but it also fosters a mutual respect and understanding between guests and landowners, bridging gaps and building empathy. This approach has cemented LandTrust as a leader in the recreation access network, where positive experiences are the cornerstone of its success. As we chat with Nic De Castro today, we'll uncover the story behind LandTrust, the impact it's making on rural and working lands, and how the ethos of partnership, community, and trust is not only preserving but enriching our access to the great outdoors. As always, we hope you take something away from this episode.
Welcome to the American Land Seller Podcast with your host, Kobe Rickertson. Kobe is an accredited land consultant and multi-state land broker with American Legacy Land Company. Join us each week as we explore all things land. We bring you fresh insights and expert guests on sales, marketing, regulations, economics, and so much more. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms.
Okay, Kobe and our special guests, let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the American Land Seller Podcast. We are here today with Nic De Castro from LandTrust. I'm really fascinated by what you guys are doing, Nic. How are you today?
Doing well. Appreciate having me on, Kobe.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So tell us just a little bit about, let's just start out with what is LandTrust?
Yeah, happy to. So first of all, we're not a conservation easement organization. Those are traditional land trusts. We are LandTrust, one word, landtrust.com. So we are a for-profit company. Yeah, a lot of people think about us like Airbnb for do-it-yourself outdoor rec on private land. So we do a lot of hunting, but we do have other activities, as we were just talking about, fishing and bird watching, camping, etc. So for, a lot of our landowners are multi-generation owner-operator producers, whether they farm or ranch, and they've got this asset that sits underneath their feet every day. And there's a lot of people who'd love to have access to it. And so LandTrust makes it really easy for them to be connected with them and generate income from allowing people to come out on their property and hunt or fish or do these other things in a do-it-yourself manner.
Sure. And that's actually, you're kind of pioneers on that. Am I correct on that? I wasn't really too much before you guys got started.
Yeah, I couldn't take credit for that. There definitely have been people who tried to build what we're building before. I always say, over the years, I've been working on this almost 5 years, and people say, "Oh, I've had that idea." I'm like, yeah, it's just an idea. It's not my idea. Certainly, we're the largest. We've executed probably best on it. But there were people who had tried this, 2014, 2015, but I just think it was too early from a technology perspective. Sure. Cell service, Wi-Fi, smartphones, there's just a lot of other kind of stuff that is out of my control. It's more of just a timing perspective, but there were people who tried it before.
That's very cool. So what about you, Nic? Where are you from? What's the history of Nic?
Sure. Yeah. So I live here in Montana. We're based here in Bozeman, Montana. I'm actually originally from the beach from Southern California.
Wow.
I grew up there. I think probably in the last bit of the heyday, it was not very developed. I grew up in a small little town and, surfed and fished and hunted and played baseball. And yeah, went to school out in Boston and then was in advertising and marketing sales for pretty much my whole career before I started this company. So I kind of lived all over the place and traveled everywhere. But came to Montana in 2016 and then started working on what is LandTrust today. I had the original idea in 2017 and didn't quite do anything with it until 2019. So 2019 was when we really went in earnest on it.
So 2019, the timing on that is historically significant. So did
Yeah.
uh, did that help or hurt you going? Because I know there's a lot of people, believe it or not, that the COVID scenario did actually help their business.
Yeah, it's hard. It's honestly, it's hard for me to say. If we had existed for a couple years before and then got to see what like a baseline and then, yeah, so it's really hard for me to say because I went full time July 1st of 19. By the way, we had our first daughter August 5th of 19. So literally a month in, no health insurance. My wife really loved that. And then we launched October 2nd. So we kind of launched in hunting season. So we only had like a partial season, and then yeah, COVID. We were growing nicely, obviously small numbers, but January, February, March, all were just like 25-30% a month over the last one, and then April was just everything went to zero. But then you know what? In May and June we started to come back. So like I said, I don't really know. The things that really hurt us in April was obviously kind of that was when everything really shut down. And then I think even Nebraska, like states like that, they shut down non-resident hunting. So they stopped selling tags to people from out of state. And so a lot of those states in the Midwest started doing that. So that hurt for sure. But it's really hard to say. It obviously didn't kill us by any means. We were only a few months old at that time.
Yeah. No, that's just kind of fascinating. That was if only people knew, what was coming back
Yeah.
then.
They would have bought their non-resident turkey tag sooner.
That's right. That's for sure. Okay, so take me through the process here. I'm a landowner. I've got some property. I think a lot of things I think what's going to be fascinating to people is I think still to this day, a lot of landowners in my area, they still are the old school, somebody comes, asks them, they don't realize that there's value, right, on the leasing of their ground for hunting. Take me through that,
Sure.
how do we get started if I'm a landowner?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it's good to talk about the context too. So let's talk hunting because hunting is obviously one of the kind of the bigger activities. Traditionally, farmers, ranchers, landowners who own ground, if they wanted to monetize or make any sort of money off their hunting, they would do a traditional kind of annual lease. That was really the only way to do it. You could lease directly to a group of guys, or you could lease to an outfitter and run their operation on top of it. There's some pros to that. One, you get kind of a chunk of change up front, so you get a check kind of at the beginning. And if you like the people that you lease to, that's great. You deal with one group of people. What we've heard over the years is that, especially for owner-operators who are living and working that ground, they don't like selling away their property right, because that's essentially what you're doing with a hunting lease. Is you're selling a property right away for a period of time, whether it's a year, a couple of years, or whatever.
Sure.
And part of that is if their family, their friends, their neighbors, your kid down the street want to use, go out and hunt or fish or use the ground, they really can't let them do that. And that's always been kind of the rub. So with LandTrust, our landowners retain all their rights and control. So if any of your landowners have ever used an Airbnb, a VRBO, etc., you're basically just putting it on a platform. It's free to do. And you're saying, hey, I'm willing to allow people to host people on, these days for this much money for these activities, etc. So the landowner stays completely in control, and they've loved it because one, you can make more money often doing that, but two, again, for the friends, families, neighbors, business partners, whatever, they can still say, yeah, we'll block it out for you that week or whatever. And so we actually have quite a bit of ground in your state. And for those landowners who are interested, we have guys on the ground. So we have what we call landowner success managers. We have 2 in Nebraska, and they'll come out and visit with you. It's not a sale because we don't charge you anything. So we're business partners with our landowners. We make money on transactions. So when we bring a customer and you do the transaction, we take a commission. It's 80-20. So
Sure.
landowners keep 80%, we get 20%. But yeah, they'll visit with you. We know this is always a family decision. It's never one person who gets to say, yes, let's list our ground. Answer questions, talk about liability, kind of how the process works. They'll take photos of the property. We build digital maps of the property so that when people do book, we just send them over like, hey, here's the property maps. Here's waypoints for like a gate to park, or here's where tree stands are, no-go zones, all that stuff. So we kind of get everything set up. We have a team here in Bozeman and in Fargo who do landowner onboarding. So they'll build your listings out. We do like all the work. We know that our landowners are very busy people. And so we basically white glove service the whole thing. And they get to look at it and see if it looks good. And if it looks good, they give it a thumbs up. We put it live and you start getting your, inquiries and booking requests.
That is really, really fascinating. And I guess I didn't, I kind of, that was what I was really curious about is like, what is the responsibility of the landowner? And you're basically saying, nope, that's our deal.
Yeah. So again, we are business partners with landowners. Landowners are not our customers. We share a customer, which is kind of all the people who want to get outdoors. Getting a property, getting your land live on LandTrust, we will take a lion's share of that responsibility because we just want to make it easy. Now, once it goes live, your only responsibilities are to respond to people when they make inquiries with you, and just to do that in a relatively timely manner. We set the expectation with our guests that, hey, these are working farms and ranches, so give them 24, 48 hours to get back to you. But yeah, just being responsive and accepting booking requests. And I mean, that's really all you have to do. You can all do it from your phone once it's set up.
Sure. No, that's really, really fascinating. Well, if you don't mind, let's take a quick break and we will be right back. The American Land Seller Podcast is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit LandHub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. LandHub.com, where your land journey begins. All right, we are back here with Nic De Castro from LandTrust. That's LandTrust. Nic, as a land specialist, I'm always looking to create value for my clients, right? That's like wake up in the morning before I even, like while I'm having my coffee, before I even get ready for work, I'm considering what could I do? And that's why I really do appreciate what you guys are doing because, it's like you said, they don't have to sell their entire soul on the hunting rights of their farm, right? They can just pick and choose the dates. And again, so let's talk just a little bit about that. What are some of the interesting, what are the reasons why somebody wants to hold back part of the rights on a property?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, I would say, so we have about 1.5 million acres in 40 or so states right now. So we get to see a lot of the country, and I would say that the lion's share of our landowners are owner-operator producers. And the cool thing is, they're all different, but they're all the same. There's different parts of the country, and they might grow different crops, but there's a lot of similarity. For those types of landowners specifically, we have seen that, they really, really, first and foremost, before the income is the control. And being able to control their property rights, kind of their way of life, is really number one. And then generating income and that kind of stuff. So for that type of landowner, when they had done kind of that traditional lease or outfit in the past, they basically have lost the say in who gets to come out, how often they come out. They can't let their friends, family, neighbors come out because they sold that away. So really, that has been a very attractive thing to that type of landowner. Because the other thing too is these folks have lived on that ground their whole life and for generations often. They know what, from a hunting perspective, from a wildlife perspective, what good looks like and what doesn't. I want to say first and foremost, we're not against outfitters by any means. Outfitters are service providers. There's great ones. There's terrible ones. There's great ones. And there's, everything in between. They provide a service. But they also have a business model that kind of necessitates them to sell hunts, regardless of whether the ground is good, bad. I mean, they paid for something up front. And they got to make that money back. Our landowners, I'll give you an example. Like Kansas, the last few years have been pretty bad drought. And we have quite a few landowners down there that were getting all sorts of inquiries from bird hunters and turkey hunters this last year. And our landowners are saying, hey, listen, we're actually not going to do any this year. It's just the populations are bad. It's been a drought. And so that is probably something that wouldn't have happened if you had paid for a lease and you're trying to pay that money back. This is their ground. They want to see that resource thrive because it's not only from a monetary perspective, but it's like, hey, they have pride and ownership. They're stewards of the land. And so, we do see that. And I think that ability for those landowners to say, we're not going to do that this year. Just because it's just, drought or that fire or for whatever, myriad reasons why they might not want to, they get to say that. Whereas if they had leased it, it's like, well, okay, well, I guess we have to just kind of sit back.
Yeah, I think and there's all kinds of different reasons why you may want to take a break with stuff, with turkeys especially, you may want to take a year off every once in a while because they'll leave and never come back. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really that's pretty smart and realistically. So walk me through landowner, what's the process? They just reach out to you. You said you have people in every area or close to every area. You kind of have.
Yeah, it's a good question. So certainly, if you go to LandTrust.com, there'll be a for landowners kind of button on top, and that's just a page. We have video testimonials from all landowners from across the country who've been with LandTrust for years now. Just more about the program and insurance and safety and all that kind of stuff. But there's also a phone number there too. So if you call us, real people will answer the phone. This isn't like AI chatbots or something. Like we got people who will happily talk to you on the phone. And then, yes, if you have that call and it sounds interesting, if you're in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, like a lot of that kind of swath of land, we'll have people on the ground who will actually come and visit with you. And like I said, answer questions, take photos, build digital maps, like basically get you all squared away and ready to go.
Very cool. So when you guys go in there, we had kind of talked about this on the break. Our company has started Deer Tracks, which basically is they're a company that goes in and helps develop recreational properties for certain specific purposes. So if you're into the deer and if you're into hunting, then that's what we're going to go in and try and help you get the best carrying rate on your property. Is that something that you guys kind of help people with too, is when you go in there and kind of give some recommendations on properties, what they could improve?
It's a good question. We're playing around with this, but really we want to leverage partners for this because we're not the experts with that. What we want to be is the best marketplace facilitator that we can be. That's our job, is like, let's build a big marketplace that has a bunch of great quality land and great quality kind of sportsmen and people who love the outdoors. And that's a big, that's our value. We partner with some of the nonprofits like National Turkey Federation, National Deer Association, a lot of the species-based organizations, because they're the experts in that. Now, certainly, we do want our landowners to start thinking about these things. Again, these are not, quote, recreational properties, although they are generating $20,000, $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year from recreation. So they're still production ag properties, but I think our landowners, once they start generating some fairly significant income from it, they're coming to us and saying, hey, how can we I'll give you the example of turkeys. I still have yet to meet a rancher who, when you first go onto their ranch and say, hey, what about turkey hunting? Like, you can go shoot all the turkeys you want right there. Like, you kill them all. That's usually the kind of the thought process at first. I'm like, no. There's a huge market of people who they'll drive from Missouri to Montana to go hunt turkeys. It always blows their mind. But we've had many instances of landowners who started hosting kind of turkey hunts on their property with LandTrust, and they make $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 that year. And they're like, holy cow, how do we have better turkey habitat? And it's because it's a revenue, it's a profit center for them. So we want to be able to connect them with the people who know how to do that. We don't pretend to be like habitat specialists by any means. We want to connect them with habitat specialists because it's in our best interest as their business partner to make sure that habitat is really healthy and has the best populations they can have.
Right, and that just is smart because like you're connecting them with the habitat specialists, and then there's that partnership, yet that triangle of partnerships that you can have that just create more value for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, the thing is it's look, the profit motive, it keeps us all aligned. And that's the funny thing. I know that there's people out there who are detractors, hunting and profit. It's like, actually, when you put the profit incentive in the right place, the properties that do best on LandTrust have healthy wildlife and habitat. I mean, that's full stop. Yeah. So yeah, make it profitable to have healthy habitat and wildlife. And we're already starting to have some of these conversations with some of our landowners saying, hey, maybe leave a little bit of standing, crop around the edges, or leave those brushy edges. And it actually could save money. You're not wasting burning fuel, like taking care of that stuff. It's overwinter habitat. So what are these like very low lift things that you can do to just provide better habitat that actually save you money? And then you can make that some of your most profitable acreage if you look at it a per acre basis, that marginal ground from an ag be doing $2,000 to $5,000 a year per acre, you know?
Well, and I think that what you said that's really interesting, or that I kind of go back to is we're looking at astronomically high land prices, and
Hmm.
so like I have producers that ask me all the time, how do you think we're going to make this work?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that goes towards, well, carbon credits, right?
Yeah.
Or and different avenues like that are available. But what
We'll
you're
see where
talking
those
about,
markets go. That's,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it's
and
still such
again,
Wild West. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, but still there's opportunities there at this time.
Hmm.
So, but what you're talking about is like, seriously, I don't think a lot of landowners know what they could do with their land, like on even a year round hunting or whatever,
Yep.
and even in the break, you were talking about bird watchers, like some of the stuff that you guys are looking forward at.
That's
And
right.
so,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really, we're not a hunting company. Yes, hunting is probably 90% of the bookings we see today because that's where we started. And hunting is it's a high value activity. It's a great thing to start with. But we're starting to see more and more fishing bookings. So if you have farm ponds, if you've got, creek, river access, whatever, fishing, camping, people who just got, I've got three young daughters, four, almost three and a little over one. We get a travel trailer. I don't want to go to a KOA. Like, I don't want to go camp next to 60 other
yeah.
people. Like, I'd rather just go pull up next to a farm pond and have a little piece of property to ourselves. There's a huge market for a lot of different people who love the outdoors, and it could just be wildlife viewing, bird watching, photography. We're doing photography. So there's a lot of uses that aren't hunting that is now enabling our landowners to monetize year round, because obviously hunting is regulated at the state level. There's certain monetization windows, like a season. You can't do hunting out of season, it's poaching. So we want to find those other opportunities for our landowners to be able to say, yeah, give them that opportunity to say, yeah, you can come out and shed hunt, or you can come out and fish the farm pond, you can camp over the summertime. And I think the last category of activities that I believe will be the biggest one is what we call farm and ranch experiences.
Oh, really?
We'll be the first to tell you, we don't know enough about it yet. We know it's a thing, but we have some of it happening on the platform now. But this is basically just like cool experiences that you can invite people out to host and make some money from. I'll give you a couple examples. Over Christmas time up here, we had a ranch just outside Bozeman who was doing sleigh rides. So they have some horses, they got a thing, and they had families booking a sleigh ride, and they
Nice.
they basically booked it out, and they probably made a few $1,000s just from taking people around, telling about the ranch, just taking them around. I took my wife and kids to a Hereford ranch right here in town, and they were bottle feeding calves, just learning about the operation, being connected with agriculture from the people actually doing agriculture. And I know that when my wife posted photos of my girls, like with the calves, like 20 moms direct messaged her on Instagram, being like, "Where did you do that?" And it could be regenerative ag tours, it could be, harvesting, it could be brandings, whatever. I think that will be honestly probably the biggest activity in the future. Now, I'll be the first to say we're still figuring it out, and we're trying to make it really, really easy for our producers to be able to participate in. But that is one that you can do. And I think from a higher level perspective, I want to reconnect the non-producing public, which I'm included in, with the producers. Because I think there's no better way for agriculture to diffuse the crazy kind of BS that they hear. It's all over the mainstream media, like farmers are killing the world and all the craziness, than to have people actually come out to your place, interact with you, see the operation, and hear it from the horse's mouth. And by the way, it's kind of a good way to sell some direct consumer stuff too. We have people who are, booking hunts and getting a side of beef, or, coming out and buying like agricultural products too.
Yeah, that is really fun. I mean, like that, what you said is exactly right. I think the struggle that most ag producers have in the world is the fact that our customers are undereducated.
Hmm.
And
That's right.
I think that out here isolated on the farm, you really don't think about the fact that it's your responsibility to educate people on like what you're doing,
Yep.
because you have people that are disconnected that think that farmers are out here raping the land and
Yeah.
doing all kinds of horror to it, And in reality, that's the exact opposite. And so if you can use your platform to educate people on
And get paid to do it. And
yeah,
get paid to do it
and
profitably,
make a
you know?
few extra bucks. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
too shabby.
Yeah,
Let's go
I'll give
ahead.
you one example on that point too, because I think it's a really good point. We did some kind of early tests with birders, people who want to watch birds, right? As a bird hunter my life long, I like to watch them too, but just over the barrel of a shotgun, you know. And so we had a big ranch out there in the Sandhills, and they're sixth generation place. And we had some people from the Audubon Society go out there, and they said they saw more of this like very rare type. I think it's a grasshopper sparrow. They saw more grasshopper sparrows on that ranch. It's a big place, like 46,000 contiguous acres, than they've seen on quote protected lands. And the rancher wouldn't be able to tell you what that bird is, but his practices and the way they've run their operation for generations, yeah, it's actually really healthy. And again, there's more biodiversity there on their place as a cattle ranch than in quote protected areas. So I think those are the kinds of stories that can only be told, you know, when you're actually out on those places and see with your own eyes and meet these people.
Yeah, and it's just you're connecting people with an opportunity to do that. And again, it's like
Hmm.
you said, and monetizing it in the same sense.
Right.
I guess I'm learning more than I thought. I thought I knew what you did, Nick. I didn't know what you did. So I'm glad you came on this morning. But let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. The American Land Seller podcast is brought to you in part by American Legacy Land Company. At American Legacy, our seasoned agents set us apart, providing unmatched service with a personal touch that goes beyond expectations. With a wealth of market knowledge and a diverse portfolio, including farms, ranches, development lands, and recreational properties, we forge lasting connections with clients through honesty, integrity, and transparency. Visit us at AmericanLegacyLandCo.com and find the land that defines your legacy. All right, we're back here with Nic Castro from LandTrust, LandTrust.com. Really fascinating what you guys are doing, Nick. Like I think that something that I don't know if it's going to be something you're going to want to talk about, but it kind of seems like the stats that I've seen are hunting, like some of the sportsman stuff, the outdoor sportsman stuff has kind of been trickling down, like in a decline. I guess, after visiting with you, I kind of question, is that maybe because of the fact that it's really, really expensive to do it and people just don't have that opportunity? And if that's the case, maybe this is a way that people can. I mean, I looked at your site like a day on some stuff. It's not super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good topic. So a lot of the news stories that have ran over the last few years about hunting being on the decline, they come and they cite the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does every 4 years, it's 4 or 5 years, they do a survey.
Sure.
And so they survey like 1,500 people. They extrapolate the data, and they make this kind of an overarching statement that it is on the decline. Well, we also have just pure license sales data, like actual basically what was sold. Those numbers have been incredibly stable. Now, per capita, yes, less people hunt today than did on a per capita basis in 1950 for sure. But
Sure.
we usually are in that 15 to 17 million hunting licenses and tags sold in the US, and that's been very stable the last, let's call it 5 to 10 years. Sure, our population is growing, so again, per capita it's a little bit lower percentage, but we're pretty stable. Certainly, though, one of the biggest barriers to entry is maybe not price, but access. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
so, this really comes down to we're losing, I don't know, I've seen stats like we're losing 175 acres an hour of ag lands to development. And, so basically you have a relatively fixed demand and you have shrinking supply. And so, look, we're out here I'm out here in Bozeman in Montana. We have tons of public land. You're in Nebraska, it's 99% private. Most of the hunting population in the United States live in states with less than 20% public land. So if that's the case and you're losing undeveloped land, ag lands to development, yeah, it's going to be harder and harder to find places to actually go hunt. And frankly, public lands are getting more and more pressure. So, for me at this stage of my life, I don't get to go hunting and fishing a ton because I got little kids and a company and all that, it's just the season of life. When I do go outdoors, I don't want to go out with 30 other people. Like I go outdoors to
Yeah.
kind of relax and, you know, showing up to a trailhead or a parking lot and there's 30 trucks is not very relaxing to me. I'd rather go and have a piece of property to myself, even if I don't, kill anything or whatever. It's just I'm going out there to be outdoors and disconnected. And so I think a lot of people that use land trust really like that. And I think for new hunters, new people getting into this sport, public lands are very daunting because they know that they don't really know anything, and there are a lot of people out there with deadly weapons, and that's a kind of a daunting thing to get over. Whereas with land trust, they know that they can go out to a place and have it to themselves. It's safe. They can talk to the landowner beforehand. The landowner can show them the place, and frankly, they'll probably have a much better opportunity to actually just see wildlife. And that's really what you get hooked. I mean, even getting close to a doe, white-tailed doe, is pretty cool. And that's the kind of experience that you can get people hooked on. And especially we see a lot of people with children who want just a more controlled, safer environment. And I think our platform offers that. So it's definitely access and there was a survey that just came out at the end of this last year on hunting, and the number one reason for people stopping hunting was access to places to hunt. It's like 86%.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. And again, it's gaining access that with this tool, you can gain access to land that, that may not have been available before because of the fact that they didn't want to lock it down. So
that's right.
Again, we're going back to the beginning and saying, the value is multifaceted.
Yeah,
So,
and it's not, they didn't want to lease or they didn't want the liability. It's just a matter of fact that 40, 50 years ago, we're just a much less litigious society. Lawsuits were not, I don't know, it's kind of sad that that's where we are today, but when I was starting this company, that was like, it's always still the number one question. I mean, what about liability? And so I think it's good to talk about that. So from a liability perspective, I think it's first you start at the state levels. So in the top 34 ag producing states, the state wants to incentivize this type of activity. They call it agritourism.
sure.
Everything we're talking about, hunting, fishing, whatever, tours, whatever, is all agritourism if it's happening on ag land. So the state wants this because they want farm and ranch operations to generate more income. And so they know that liability is a big kind of like stopping point. So the states limit liability at the state level for any sort of agritourism activities unless there's gross negligence. So the state's protecting you there. Then you get to land trust. So anybody that you'd ever host on land trust has already accepted our terms of service in which they hold you as the landowner harmless. So they're holding you harmless, indemnifying you. We do ID verification. So they, when they create their account, they've got to upload a picture of their driver's license or passport, and we ensure they're real people. They are who they say they are. They're paying up front with a credit card. So now you have their ID and a credit card. Then we have property protection. So, even though that guest of yours would be liable for anything, if for whatever reason they break a gate, I don't know, the famed shoot a cow. It's never happened, but it always gets asked about. They're responsible, but if they don't, we'll pick up we'll write you a check up to $10,000 per incident. We have participant insurance. So for the guests, if they step in a badger hole, break their leg, again, technically they're liable for themselves. But for whatever reason, they can come to us. We'll pay up to $10,000 in medical bills. And then, of course, we've got about $1 million general liability policy that's a backstop to any policies you have. So we try to take a multifaceted approach. And then I guess the other last piece is after every trip, after every booking, just like Airbnb, VRBO, Uber, any of these other things, you both rate each other. So the landowner gets to rate their guest and the guest gets to rate the landowner. And so you kind of have this accountability after trips that has never existed, not in the hunting world, certainly, because before us, you could go knock on one door, be a jerk, and then walk down the street and knock on the neighbor's door, and they'd have no idea of knowing,
Sure. That sounds like you guys have thought through everything. And again, agritourism, I've heard that before. That's a great, that's basically what you guys are doing all the way around. So
yeah, and I know that word can conjure up certain things in people's minds, like a hay maze or apple picking or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. All this stuff is agritourism. Nothing against those operations, but I know a lot of our producers are like, hey, I can't deal with that. It's just under the general umbrella of agritourism from a state perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we got a few minutes left here, Nick. Let's talk about some crazy stuff. Like what's some of the craziest stuff that's going on Land Trust? We were talking a little bit about a few things in the break, but what's some of the fun stuff that maybe people don't realize that is out there for them?
Yeah, I mean, we have for a hunter, we kind of have everything almost. And we're getting in more in the south, so you have hogs. I think we have an alligator hunt listed. So there's like
Oh,
some,
really?
yeah, there's some cool stuff. And we're getting more into Florida, so I think you'll see like iguanas and alligators and all that kind of stuff. And look, I don't know if you hunt or not, but hunters and fishermen, we're always looking for new stuff, right?
Yeah.
I live in Montana. We have elk hunting, which many people want to go do, but I want to go like hunt hogs. And for the people down in the south, they're like, why would you want to do that? I want to go hunt elk.
Yeah.
So there's always that. We want to go do things that we don't have access to. We have, I think, one of our ranches up here, because in Montana, if your listeners don't know, we have a lot of like dinosaur fossils. So there's some ranches here that you can go and like do digs for dinosaur fossils. I don't know if you get to keep them because they are very valuable, but you can go and do that. One of our ranches up here was, gosh, it still has the teepee rings um, from Custer's battles and that stuff. So there's
Oh, really?
they actually went through there. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And then we just have like some really interesting farm and ranch experiences too that you can go and browse through and that are fun things to do with your family. So, luckily nothing crazy has happened on Land Trust. We've never had any incident, knock on wood. I'm sure it'll happen eventually just because it's just the law of large numbers. As you get bigger and bigger, that kind of stuff could happen, but nothing too crazy has happened.
Yep. And so you also have had some pretty crazy, or you do have a substantial amount of fishing too on here,
hmm
correct?
Yeah. Fishing is one of those things that it's just such an easy, you know, out here in the West, it's a little bit more kind of like if you're along rivers or creeks. But then you get to the Midwest and it's ponds. If you're in the prairie pothole region or you got farm ponds or whatever, there's just a lot of people looking for opportunities to go and have a kind of a nice, again, uncrowded fishing experience in a beautiful kind of quiet place. So yeah, there's a ton of fishing opportunity.
Well, that's really cool. I appreciate you taking the time today, Nick.
Well, thank you
Can
for
you
having
give
me.
us some? Yeah, it's been fun. I've learned. I tell you, I thought I knew again what you guys do, but apparently I did not know it all. So
Well, that's why these longer conversations or podcasts are a really fun medium because you get to have a longer form conversation and answer questions and I like them a lot.
yeah, I do, and that's kind of why I started mine was because like we were talking about before we got going this morning is I listen to them all day long every day as I'm driving around the country going to listings and going and checking out stuff and
Yep.
so being a land agent you get
A lot
some
of
put some
windshield time.
miles on vehicles. Yes, sir, we do. So yeah, so how can people get a hold of you or
Yep.
who do we contact if
Yeah.
we're a landowner?
Yeah. So the easiest way to get a hold of us, if you're just driving or you like to just make a phone call, you can call or text us at 406-709-8450. Say it again just for folks if they're driving. It's 406-709-8450. So that calls the office. Again, you can text that number too if you're just kind of in transit.
Sure.
And we've got real human beings here who will be happy to sit here and talk to you for answer any questions you might have. And then, yeah, if it's interesting, one of our Landowner success managers will be happy to come out and visit with you. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, or landtrust.com is our website. So there's, all the information that we've talked about here is on there as well. And you can, if you're interested, you're a landowner or you're a sportsman, listen to this. You can go to LandTrust and just browse the listings in your area and see what other families' operations are listed there, ranches, and what opportunities there are for you too.
Yeah, and you can. I was playing around getting ready for this podcast, and you've got some really cool mapping features that you can just kind of like,
hmm
and I can tell the vision is it's not going to just be the United States at some point.
That's
I
right.
think
Yeah,
your vision is
we'll be in
to be a
multiple
little bit
continents.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fun. Yeah, appreciate it. LandTrust.com. Again, I really super appreciate you being on here today.
Thanks for having
You
me
have
on,
a
Kobe.
great product. I look forward to maybe talking to our Deer Tracks guys and
Yeah.
having them maybe they can forge a relationship that is beneficial for you and them because I think it would be a great
Yep.
feather in our cap for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, appreciate having me on.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for today, and we will see you all down the road.
As we wrap up another episode of the American Land Seller Podcast, thank you for joining us. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms. If you would be so kind and you enjoyed today's insights, please like, subscribe, rate, follow, and review us on whatever app you are listening or watching on. Connect with us on social media for updates. Until next week, Kobe wishes you success in your land endeavors. God bless you and have a great week.
The American Land Seller Podcast is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. At LandHub, we're revolutionizing land transactions by effectively connecting buyers and sellers. Say goodbye to the struggle of finding or marketing land for sale. We understand the power of new media marketing, leveraging social media, and targeted ads to bring together the ideal audience for all property types. LandHub.com, where your land journey begins. And American Legacy Land Company. At American Legacy, we redefine excellence in real estate. Explore our top quality offerings featuring farms, ranches, recreational properties, and even development projects spanning 10 Midwest states. Visit us at AmericanLegacyLandCo.com for a premium experience that aligns with your land ownership goals. Whether you're looking at buying or selling, we're dedicated to helping you find the land that defines your legacy.